All right, welcome to this Dominions 5 Pretender design video for Early Age Rus, or Rus. Um, what you see here on screen is my latest preferred Pretender for this nation, and I'll talk about its design, and yeah, we'll just go from there. So I've picked the Frost Father Imprisoned Rainbow Bless. And what I prefer to go for with Rus is purely stats. So 2 attack skill, because we can get 4 air easily. I go ahead and take minor shock resistance. Minor shock resistance for 1 is one of the few resistances I think is worth taking, because the alternatives in air, especially for a melee nation, I think are not the greatest. You can go up to 6 air and get 2 more defense that way, but honestly, water is more efficient for getting defense. Swiftness, the plus 30% movement rate, so that's where the extra defense points coming from, in case you're unfamiliar. The plus 1 defense, but the 30% movement rate, I find it to be okay on this nation. I don't think it really makes a big difference, so I don't prioritize air, even though the nice thing about the Frostfather is he starts with a point in air and a point in water, which is why I took him, because I'm taking 6 on these. I always take a chassis that has the highest path starting out in whatever the highest path is going to be that I take. The alternative to the Frostfather is if you wanted to take the Archmage, but he ends up being more expensive, even though he's 90. Even though he's 90, the extra air point just kind of ends up being a freebie with the 100-point Frostfather. So there you go. Anyway, the defense, obviously a no-brainer. 6 water gives me plus 2 defense times 2 is 4. Reinvigoration, I go ahead and go for 4 earth to get the reinvigoration, and I'll talk about why next, because this bless is going primarily on our skin shifter. I love this unit. I love that it has built-in recuperation. That's one of my favorite nature blesses to take, but I love it when a bless I want comes for free on a unit, and recuperation on here is great, and some of your commanders also have it. So this guy here, the Perkunu, he's also got it, and this, I love this class too, because he is torn between 2 worlds, either being a extremely awesome air evocation caster or a self-buffing thug. He doesn't have the the earth path. That's the only thing that kind of hurts with him, but you know, air is still a great alteration, as well as if you can get astral and do ethereal form on himself. And then of course I love 2 nature for regeneration. One weakness with this nation overall, is just an aside, is all of the low-level astral on very high expensive mages. I'll talk about the units a little bit in passing, but this is really about the Pretender more than anything. So the Chud skin shifter, one of the great reasons for taking reinvigoration as opposed to strength, first of all, he has already very high damage, so buffing strength on this unit is not as big a priority in my opinion, although obviously later in the game when you start ending up fighting against 30 protection or more units, every amount of strength helps, but he's already got really high strength, and you can do strength of giants and so forth to continue boosting this. But the thing is, he's got Berserker. So if you take reinvigoration, you're going to benefit from Berserker for longer, because the Berserker is going to increase your attack skill and protection, I believe, which is protection's awful, but at the expense of fatigue. And then when he fatigues out at 100, he's going to fall asleep, and then his Berserker is going to go off. His Berserker is going to toggle back off. So if you have Reinvigoration on him, Reinvigoration 2, like I've taken, it'll keep this going longer. Even if you are making a Pretender for a nation that doesn't have Berserk, there is a side effect to, if you're going by the let's go stats mentality on your design, there is a good reason to still consider reinvigoration, and that is because as your units get fatigued out, their stats do start to receive a penalty. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can take strength, which is good because you kill other units quicker, but having the reinvigoration will also benefit your stats long term over the course of the battle. I'm going to jump next to blood though. where I have taken strength of the flesh. So I think you could argue for Rus that instead of taking strength of flesh, you could take you could take not blood vengeance, blood surge. This is another really good one. If your unit kills something, it's automatically going to get another +3 strength, +3 attack, extra defense, and extra reinvigoration. I really like blood surge as well. I just haven't taken it on this latest bless. Yeah, I think it's not. I think it's a viable alternative. And if you do it, if we're sticking with this design, you can lower like astral by 1 or nature by 1, and then you can get your 4th point here for blood. Alternatively, you could stick with 3 or even 4. You could add hit points onto this instead, because another great thing about the skin shifter is that he has an alternate form. He turns into a bear after he gets killed the first time, so you get those hit points, those bonus hit points twice. Same thing applies obviously to Undying. Undying's a no-brainer. Extra hit points before you change into your second form, I believe. So yeah, and then let's go to nature. That's another easy one. With nature, why am I taking 3 resilient? I actually didn't mean to take 3 resilient. I You can take the resilient for the extra normal hit points. I do tend to take major poison resistance a lot. I don't usually stack minor and major. You can do that to get the +15. It's a very efficient resistance. So second to minor shock resistance. Actually, I would say minor shock resistance is second to taking major poison resistance whenever I take resistances. Poison resistances, you can change this out depending on who you're facing. So a lot of your bless may be tweaked as well if you know who you're fighting. Like if you're not fighting any giant nations that are going to have huge amounts of hit points, then you can probably rethink taking strength of flesh and go for blood surge. I usually play my games blind against the AI, so I expect there's going to be a giant nation or something like that, so I'll take strength. Usually over hit points or, well, I do take blood surge a lot, so again, that's the caveat there. This isn't the single end-all be-all design. It's just my thoughts on why I picked this and the close second alternatives. So, yeah, if you are going up against, like Satis or other nations that may be deploying poisons, I think it's worth taking. It's pretty cheap. And the other thing too is that your competitors in nature are kind of low priority. Like Resilient, I really definitely prefer Undying over Resilient. But pick your poison, I guess. Pun intended. The other thing with nature is that I take low light vision. This is another one where it can depend on your map and who you're playing against. If you know there's no caves, well, maybe don't bother with low light vision. I take it because it's a very cheap way to get some utility against assassins. That's the other thing that I like to think about when I pick either Spirit Sight or low light vision is, one, are there a lot of caves on the map, which in Dominions 5 there tends to be enough to make it worth taking. And two, are any of the other nations going to be using assassins? And the AI will definitely use assassins. And in that case, having the low light vision for some of your better units is definitely worth it, to be able to kill the assassins with either your blessed bodyguards who have the low light vision built in, because they don't have to be blessed to get it. I'll load a game and just confirm that. But yeah, Spirit Sight for sure. You also don't have to be blessed to have it. So you can just put some, 1 or 2 of your sacred units on some of your high priority mages if those mages themselves aren't sacred. And they'll at least be able to see the assassin in the dark. And then if you have a blessed or a sacred mage or unit, well, they've already got it built into. So yeah, it just really helps with the assassin spam that can come from Ermor or Abyssia. Astral. I'm going to be honest, since I play against the AI mostly, I take minor and major magic resistance. I really like to get solar weapons, but The problem with solar weapons is that, first of all, it is expensive for what you get. 4 bless points is stupid expensive for 3 armor piercing fire damage that, yay, it does 9 against undead. I like solar weapons a lot more in late age, when there's going to be Lemuria with their spectral undead. Let's see, Etheria has spectral undead, but I've never found them to be as big a problem. The other thing too, though, is if you have cheap blessing, if you have cheap priests, you can get around it that way too. Yeah, I know lots of people don't like solar weapons. I like solar weapons in Spirit. I do think it's overpriced and it needs a buff. The problem with it that I have right now is that it takes a point of Fire Bless, and fire is so precious. Like, none of this stuff is worth anything compared to attack skill, in my opinion. Like, even major fire resistance, I'm never going to take this over attack skill. I'm never going to take superior morale over attack skill, and it's so expensive to go from 6 to 7 to get that extra fire point just to spend one of those to get solar weapons. No. So yeah, just taking attack skill. I will say too, as an aside, this is something that's going to be fixed in Dominion 6. In Dominion 6, I believe that all the prerequisites are going to be in place. The prerequisites may change a little bit for these blesses, but the bless points themselves are all going to be generic. So suddenly, because that's one thing I was going to say, if I could get solar weapons for just 4 bless points, then I would spend these 4 points I'm getting from astral just to get solar weapons. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to in Dominion 6, and I almost wish, well, I don't almost wish, I do wish they'd make that change in Dominions 5. Like, get rid of the, like, just go ahead in Dominions 5, get rid of the different bless points, dump them all together into a generic point pool, and then instead of spending 4 points here on minor and major, I would definitely take solar weapons, even as bad as it is right now. Well, anyway, that's a single player game. In a multiplayer game, almost everybody's going to want to take magic weapons. So anyway, you still have that option. There's 4 points of astral I've taken on this chassis. You can easily switch out your magic resistance to get magic weapons instead, and then you'll be able to deal with the human tactics that you'll see there. But yeah, like I said, that's what I'm doing here. I think we've covered everything then on these blesses. I'll talk about the scales a little bit. I have found, at least with Rus, that taking Drain 3 doesn't hurt my research as much as it does on a lot of other nations, because you do have the Rusian wizard, and this guy's research is pretty good. I've found, like I said, when I take Drain 3, it really hurts on most nations, but I found with Rus that I'm doing okay with Drain 3. So I go ahead and take this scale to the bottom. You can see already I'm taking very high Dominion, and the reason for doing that is because these guys cost a ton of gold, but no resources. And so you're limited basically by recruitment points and gold. So to that end, I'm taking 7 bless points so that I can start maximizing production of those Chud warriors. The problem is it does bankrupt your nation, which is going to be painful from taking an extra point in cold 3 instead of cold 2. And taking full sloth. The other reason I take sloth is just because, I mean, I don't need the resources for those guys. It does hurt your income. And then to offset it, I take order. I like order. Actually, I think this is what I normally take. Yeah, I take order too. I need the order, not so much for the income as much as I need it to get the recruitment points to keep these guys at max. Like, there's no point in being able to recruit 7 of these guys if you don't have the recruitment points for it. You could alternatively bump your growth instead. You could even go to like misfortune and bump your growth that way. I don't like taking misfortune, but I will say this. The nice thing about this nation too is that you have great summon units, national summon units. So you can get at, let's see, I'll go ahead and show in the game, but you can go ahead and get at Conjuration 3, the Firebirds, which are going to increase the good events. In like your capital. And the other thing too about early age is you really don't care about growth except for your capital. All the other provinces you get are so bad. Like, growth is so much better in late age than it is in early age. So I definitely prefer order to growth if I'm doing an early age game. But I do like to have growth. But anyway, like I said, you can take your fortune misfortune down into misfortune with this nation a little bit better than others because one, you have the Firebirds available at Conjuration 3, which is very nice. And does have a measurable impact. Like some people say you want to have 50 of them before you see, like before you turn off Firebird production. I'll tell you, I have like 15 Firebirds and I start seeing a difference. But anecdotal, that's anecdotal. Also, you get a summon later up the Conjuration tree that gives you a unit with, I think it's Adept Researcher. We'll check. Adept Researcher, and it has Fortune Teller. So Fortune Teller is another unit. If I have, like, if I'm playing Maverni and my base researchers are all Fortune Tellers, I definitely take Misfortune on those nations. So you could argue for Misfortune on Rus, in my opinion, but I don't want to take it. I'm taking Neutral Luck because I think it's hurtful very early before you get access to Firebirds, and later up the Conjuration tree to that other unit that gives you Fortune Teller, which you also have to consider, do I want to be, summoning a ton of these Fortune Teller units at the expense of other things I need to spend my gems on? Good question. But yeah, I don't want to be that hurt by misfortune going in, so I punt and take neutral scale on fortune. A lot of people will disagree with how I do this, but you can post those in the comments. So that's a look at what I'm taking here. Like I said, you can switch out Reinvigoration for more strength, but I prefer to have the Reinvigoration for your Berserk, and I treat that as an alternate to having the Bloodlust Bless, what's it called again? Blood Surge. But yeah, Blood Surge, I really, like I said, even now as I'm talking about it, I'm like, no, dump this and take this, anyway. The other thing to point out about taking paths at certain levels is that at Air 4, I'm going to be able to make the Air Booster. At Nature 4, I'm going to be able to build the Thistle Mace and then cast Mother Oak. So the other one I would be tempted to dumpster. The other one I'd be tempted to lower is Astral to get the extra blood. But anyway, those are my thoughts there. You can also, if you want, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, these guys have super cheap temples. They only cost 200. Why don't I just build a ton of temples and then I can boost my Sacred production that way? Yeah, go ahead. You can do that. You can bump one of these up again. There we go. Now I've got 5 Earth, so now I can take a Strength of Earth. I can take Strength of the Earth and lower Regeneration 1, or whatever you want to do, or fix this problem here that way if you want. I prefer this. I don't know. Now you got me thinking. No, let's do that. Let's get even more strength on our units, or anyway. I digress. This is what has been working for me. I found with Rus that I can rush pretty easily. I'll go ahead and load a game and talk about some of the other units. So here we go. Let's talk about it. So here I have my God's Wake. This is in turn 42. Out of the gate, I was able to come down and conquer Calum pretty easily. I play single player on impossible difficulty, and all AI are aggressive. That's just the way I like to do it, and I will get trounced as often as not playing impossible this way. I've got Satis has had its failed invasions, and I've basically got a pinch point here that I'm trying to preach up so that I don't have to deal with them as I pick my next war target, because currently my strategy when I play single player against impossible AI is I wait for one or more nations to declare war on me, and I just try to get myself buffed, ready for that war. That's not going to be the same in a multiplayer game. Not at all whatsoever. Like I said, there's a difference between playing single player and playing against other players. And another thing is, again, I'll just reiterate, when you're playing single player, you don't need magic weapons. They're nice, but I don't prioritize them the way I might in a multiplayer game. So this is the unit I was talking about up here. This thing, the Gamayon, is what has Fortune Teller and Research, so you can summon these guys into Misfortune, and they'll try to take care of the bad events. I have to be honest, I don't find Fortune Teller to be that helpful. Maybe I'm not getting all the messages that are telling me that a bad event was prevented, but when I take Misfortune, Fortune Teller seems to be kind of a wash. They are 0 upkeep, which is nice. Yeah, they're pretty cool units though too. You can deploy them in battle, and they're going to do good work for you. Up here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, a paltry number of Firebirds. I think I've lost some or I've moved some out. I think I had 15 here at one point. However, look at these magic sites. So this is the end of my home province magic sites. But these 2 magic sites have come about from good events, which I attribute to the Firebirds. Like, I don't think I've ever played any other nation that has ever gotten a magic site discovered in its home province. One advantage is this is a mountain, so these are events that I think are specific to mountains. But I've got a copper mine. Thank you. 20 extra gold, just for nothing. 40 resources. Don't need it, but thank you. And then later on, if I ever cast the High Earth spell, which I can't because I don't have good Earth access, but if I ever cast Riches from Beneath, this is going to bolster my income even more. Strategy when playing Rus, like I said, I rushed down here to get Calum. Rus has such terrible fortresses. This thing only gives you 20 administration. I built a fort here. It's 15, so at least I'm getting a little bit of bonus from this population here. But really with Rus, what you want to do, well, at least in single player, this is kind of true for multiplayer no matter what, but you want to find somebody else's fortification and take it. This thing's got 30 is better than 20, obviously, so I'm going to be getting more income out of Calum here, 417, than I am going to be getting out of Rus, I would think. Yeah, already I'm getting more income out of another opponent's capital than I am my own. Yeah, I'm working towards getting this throne next, and then I'm going to try to take out Satis, I think, since they've already declared war on me. But over here, Gath, or who is it? Pretenders to the World. No, that's God, I'm so bad at the names of these nations. Hinnom is probably going to declare war on me. And then Baratos, I'm not worried about Baratos. I had an indie event come in here, and the Barbarians revolted, and Baratos was just like, oh, an indie province, I'll take this. And I'm like, you bastards. But whatever, they've built a fortress here. I'll just take their fortress, and it's going to be better than anything I can build. 45 administration, thank you. I'll take that when I get around to it. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about the Pretender design and basic strategy. Like I said, I just barreled down here with my sacred units and took Calum because I was able to. I had another game I was playing, and it was on this same map. This is, it's not Parganos. It's, anyway, I'll check in a minute. It's this map. I had to download it. It's not in Dominions 5 by default. But anyway, I did have one where I actually started down here, and who was up here? I can't remember the nation that was up here, but I forgot who it was. But I rushed their capital and was able to take it. But in the meantime, Niflheim was over here, and they came in and they ended up crushing me. Like, they laid siege to my capital, and they were able to take it instantly because this fortress is absolute garbage. 150 defense versus 250. I also prematurely gave up. I was like, oh, they're going to storm my capital. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm screwed. So I didn't script any of my mages, and my mages pulled a clutch castle defense. They were just these wizards, and I was like, these guys are all single path. I don't even want to bother trying to figure out how to do a defense, because it's a single player game, so I don't put a lot of effort into it. They pulled it off. They ethereal warriored some sacreds, and the giants got hit so hard they died, and I was able to put it off. But since I lost most of my mage core, that was kind of a blunder. This one's going much better. I was able to take the second fortress. The other person who declared war on me was Vanheim, who I haven't seen for a while. They sailed over and were harassing me. They're no longer doing that. And then Stis, who I've successfully been able to repel. And then now that I have a big enough army here, you know, I'm just basically waiting to try to get my Dominion in, which is going to take forever because this is so much Dominion. But you know, also I have reinforcements coming, so after I get this throne taken care of, I'll go up here and take care of them. That's kind of getting way out of the pretender stuff. I'm finally getting a dwarven hammer through this guy. That's the bad thing about taking imprisoned, is you're not going to get any of these paths available for a while. Yeah, I think that's basically it. Let's go ahead. I'll take a look at what this map was. Araparand. That's the map. I may think of some more things to add, but I'll probably bring them up in the comments as people like bring up criticisms of this design or their own thoughts or your own preferences. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have fun with Rus. Again, I think I love Rainbow Mages. That whole meta is going to change in Dominion 6 because sacred units are not going to be as easy to come by, or they're not going to be as big a part of your armies anymore. But hey, for now, it's Dominions 5. Whee!